Hello and welcome to another edition of AppSec Decoded. I'm Taylor Armberding, security advocate with the Synopsys Software Integrity Group, and this is the second of two conversations about the open source security and risk analysis, better known as the OSSRA, an annual report by the Synopsys Cybersecurity Research Center, now in its 8th iteration. The OSSRA examines vulnerabilities and license conflicts found in more than 1,700 commercial code bases across 17 industries and offers recommendations on how to mitigate those risks. And joining me again to talk about the major takeaways from this report is Mike McGuire, Senior Software Security Solutions Manager with the Synopsys Software Integrity Group. Mike, thanks for being here again.
Sure.
The OSSRA emphasizes that open source has to be managed to maintain its security. How does the automated tool software composition analysis help with that? Otherwise known as SCA.
SCA, absolutely. I want to go to SCA so I avoid being tongue-tied.
Right.
Yes. I save my stand-up comedy for the weekends.
There you go.
SCA, the number one benefit is going to be visibility.
Sure.
I'm always going to say step zero, really, in managing risk that comes along with open source usage is always going to be visibility, right? Because I've said it before, and I'll never stop saying it. You cannot secure what you don't know that exists. Right. If you don't know what's in your code bases, you can't monitor it for any type of risk. So software composition analysis is going to go through and take a look, first of all, at an existing application and pull out and identify any open source components that are included in there, whether it be source code or a library or a binary format. But a good SCA solution will be able to take a look at all of those and build up an inventory of that open source. And then moving forward, it can actually act as sort of a perimeter or a firewall, right? So you can use it to enforce policies of which types of open source projects and components you do and do not want entering into your software development lifecycle, getting into your application and shipping it out. You can say, no, I don't like the licenses involved with this one, or I don't like the patching paradigm that this open source component has been adhering to. I don't like these severe vulnerabilities that have been unpatched in this component. Let's use an alternative. And SCA tools, again, a good SCA tool will also help you identify those alternative components. And of course, this is just going to fit directly into your development life cycle, so it's not adding more friction, more tools. Nobody wants more tools. Nobody wants more processes. Not anymore.
Nobody wants more notifications than necessary, right?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, notification fatigue is a real issue.
Thanks. Another crucial element of managing your open source is yet another increasingly famous acronym, SBOM, SBOM, which of course stands for a Software Bill of Materials. What does an SBOM do, and how do you create one?
Well, an SBOM is simply put a list of ingredients. And it's very important to understand what an SBOM is, and it's just as important to understand what it is not. So when I say it's just a list of ingredients, that's literally what it is. It tells you the components that make up an application. It might tell you the name of it, what version it is, where it came from, possibly the license involved. It's going to have some metadata about the SBOM and when and how it was created and so forth. But that's it. What it doesn't tell you is what to make of what it's telling you, right? It doesn't tell you what to think of those components in there. It doesn't give you any insights about risk. It doesn't give you any insights about how or if those components are actually implemented by an application. Are they in the call trace? Okay. Are there vulnerabilities related to this? Are these vulnerabilities being addressed? No, that is left up to an organization to go and connect the dots between my inventory and the risk that the inventory is presenting to my applications. So, SBOM, it's going to give you that first step in the visibility. That is the really important part, is the visibility. You look at Log4Shell, right? That was the key to answering, is my application or are my applications and the tons of different versions impacted by this component? Right. And then after that, it's connecting that to risk, right? That's only half the battle. You might know you had Log4Shell, but in a sort of a vacuum, you wouldn't know that this was a vulnerable component unless you're reading headlines, right? That's why I said in a vacuum. So big part of visibility, but only a single part of it.
Right, but I mean, you made the point. I mean, my understanding is that at least an SBOM, if there's a famous vulnerability like Log4Shell, it won't take you long. If you have an SBOM, it won't take you long to know whether you're using it or not.
Bingo. Yes, that is the key value.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The OSSRA also found that most people are aware, most people in cybersecurity are aware that President Biden signed an executive order in May of 2021. And it specifically called for the use of SBOMs. In fact, the president's wish is that at some point, sooner than later, federal agencies won't be able to buy software products unless they have an SBOM. And yet, the OSSRA found that many organizations are still struggling with supply chain basics, which is what an SBOM does. Why the struggle, and what should they be doing?
I think it's just the uncertainty around what is going to be required. At this point in time, there are no actual requirements. You saw the NTIA come out and specify the approved formats for a software bill of materials, SBDX, CycloneDX, and SWID, SWID.
Right.
They did come out and define the minimal elements that they would like to see in an SBOM, but at this point in time, there's no SBOMs required yet in order to sell into the public sector or the government or critical infrastructure or so forth. Not to say that's not going to come, but again, I think there's a lot of uncertainty. And SBOM was actually only such a small part of this executive order.
True.
There is a whole supply chain risk management aspect, and that's still being defined. There's still a lot of organizations trying to wonder what is going to be required of me if I want to sell into the government beyond, including and beyond SBOM. And then also organizations who don't sell to the U.S. government, have no aspirations to, but understand that this is most likely going to become an ad hoc standard across the software development industry globally.
Yeah.
So it has to be, I think, the uncertainty and organizations trying to look for that gap between what am I doing now, what will I need to be doing, how do I fill that gap up.
Right.
But again, the most defined thing I think we've seen so far is the SBOM, which is the visibility, which is extremely important. So I would always say starting right there. You're never going to go wrong starting with the visibility. Right. It'll help your organization build secure code. It'll help you procure secure code as well, right? Have a trust but verify approach.
Sure. So not every step, but a good first step.
Exactly, yes.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks so much. We're going to leave it there. Thank you, Mike, once again for illuminating elements of the OSSRA.
My pleasure.
And remember, once again, the OSSRA report is free and available at synopsys.com. Thank you for joining AppSec Decoded. Once again, I'm Taylor Armberding for the Synopsys Software Integrity Group. We help organizations build trust into their software.